Do you think that's sometimes the problem with England? Like going back to when you were saying when you first started, and I remember when you got your first senior call up in 2012, and it was like everybody was talking about you.
Yeah.
And we've seen that repeatedly happen with different
Yeah.
players, especially under the England banner
Yeah.
or squad. How do you look back now at that time? And do you think you said something key earlier? You said, you know, you were desperately trying to meet that expectation.
Yeah. At that point, I absolutely wasn't. The early part of my career, I barely gave an ounce of thought to anything like that. You know, it was just, for me, it was just doing what I loved. There was nothing anyone could say to me would bother me. An opportunity, I obviously still do, but you love what you do. And the opportunity to do it at any level, any opportunity that came along, you just grabbed it. And other people don't have that, don't quite have that, you know, mentality. Not to say that they're wrong, or not to say that it's not successful, but for me, I wasn't under any pressure at that point. You know, a lot of people would turn around and go, "You absolutely were," but to me, I wasn't. It was just doing what I loved, and I suppose it's my mindset towards it all has changed now. It's not as easy to just to go out and do what you do, because there's so many other factors involved now. But certainly for me at that point, there was no pressure. I didn't struggle to deal with it. I thrived off it. I loved the nerves before a game. You know, I still do. But when you're young and you're naive, you're not even thinking about what happens if we lose, or what happens if, you know, you just play in the game that you love, and that's what you do. And it's only once you get older, you start to, as you mature, you start to, factor in the implications of, well, if we actually don't have a good end to this season, we could get relegated. Or you factor in, if I don't perform well, is my England spot up for grabs? If I don't do this, is there a new contract on the table? So that's where it then becomes, because there's more ingredients in the mix at that point. You know, when you're young and naive, you just, you know, you're not even thinking about, you don't even think about the financial side of it. You just nothing even bothers you, touches the sides at that point. It's just, oh my God, I'm getting to do the best job in the world, and that's play football, and nothing
and
else.
You're wearing an England shirt.
You're wearing an England shirt. Yeah. It's like you're in dreamland. It can't get any better than that. So when you're young, it's easy. It certainly felt easy for me as well. But like I said, by those points, you know, I hadn't had any setbacks. I hadn't had a loss of form or a loss of confidence. And then all those things, as you get older, they start to factor in, and they become like I say, part of the ingredients, part of the machine that you do have to factor in. It's not easy when you get older to just play without a care when there's jobs at stake, or there's relegation, promotion at stake. It's not as easy to just turn up to a game and just play without fear, if you like, when there's a lot riding on it. Because as you mature, those things matter to you. Not that they don't when you're younger, but you just don't have that. You don't have that mental side to it when you're younger. You're just going out there doing your thing. So, it's difficult. It's hard to take it on. Some people struggle with it, and some people, you know, take it on the chin. Those people probably get accused of maybe not caring, or they, you know, if they smile after a loss or something like that. It's, you know, it's not that people don't care. It's people have different ways of dealing with it. But
there's probably an element of trying to cope with it and having to, you know, there's all these different behaviors of how you cope with those things. And I think everybody shows their emotion differently, yet we kind of almost typecast how you should show an emotion. But I think that's a really common way to actually detach, to be able to cope with something after. Otherwise the pressure can just get immense. What stopped you, Jack, from just going, oh, I don't want to do, what's the thing that stopped you from going, I don't want to do this anymore? It's just, especially when it's been really hard.
Joe, I never ever had that feeling. There was times where it's just, you know what, there wasn't a lot of positives. Do you know what I mean? You're looking for that, and I've always had that inner drive. You know, even when things were at their toughest, it was like it was hard. Do you know what I mean? And I had my moments. I had, you know, there's times where you're driving in or you finish training, and you just like, I just want to go home.
Yeah.
You know, and you just like, and I didn't like it, but it was like I didn't feel myself. I didn't feel confident to just, because I wasn't playing well. I didn't have it in me to hang about the training ground to tell jokes, be a part of the group, because I was so embroiled in this is killing me that I'm not playing well. Like, it's killing me as a club that we weren't doing well. This is killing me that I'm not playing well. And I didn't feel, you know, I was sheepish. It was like I was shy, and that's just not the kind of person I am. I didn't find it comfortable being around the group and being myself, because I was like, how am I supposed to be my confident, loud self if I'm not playing well? And yeah, just kind of went into my shell a little bit, and I was like, this is just not, it's not what I'm about. I was in, you know, to the point of being embarrassed by it. I was like, this is not what I'm about. And I was like, I can't be doing this. And it ended up being the change to Palace. But even before that, I was going, this is what I love doing. I need to get back. So throughout the difficult times at Stoke, I was still determined as ever, and wanting to get back to where I want to be in terms of a playing standard of performance. And so never once thought about, like, I'm going to hang them up. Do you know what I mean? I was like, I've got far too much to give and offer still. But had the Palace opportunity not come along, then yeah, I don't know. I certainly wouldn't have been hanging my gloves up, if you like. But I needed something. If that hadn't come along, I would have needed to find something, some way of getting back to my best. And yeah, I guess I don't know what that would have been. And that's quite a daunting feeling, because I'm sat here now after this season and training every day and doing what I love to a high standard. The thought of, if I hadn't moved, what would it have taken for me to find that again? You know what I mean? I don't know. Yeah. And that's quite a daunting feeling. I actually don't know. Because I was struggling in that environment to find that. And that's not to say the environment was wrong. It just, for me, I was struggling within that. And yeah, for me, unfortunately, it kind of meant removing myself from that environment. And that's not how I wanted my time at Stoke to finish. But from a selfish perspective, in the end, leaving was the right thing. Yeah, and we left on good terms, which meant an awful lot to me, because I owe a lot to that club, and we had some incredible times together. But yeah, I don't quite know where or what it would have taken for me to find my best again if I hadn't have moved. And I guess that's quite a daunting feeling, really. Some people don't get that opportunity to find it again, if you like.
It's funny you use the word selfish, because it's not, I don't think it's remotely selfish. It's your own self-preservation, and actually it's your own self-care. And I think, you know, in whatever context it is, obviously the majority of us aren't professional footballers, so we can't relate in that sense. But I think, you know, the fact that you lost your confidence and things just weren't working right, I think it's so natural human behavior that we all do that thing where it's so hard when you're not feeling right to sit and joke and laugh, and like it almost makes it worse, because you're putting on this outside face, and it makes you even feel more lonely inside the more you have to kind of act. And I think people really revert and introvert into themselves, because it's a way of coping and protecting yourself from those feelings even more. So I think it, you know, it makes complete sense. And I think a lot of people listening will understand that in their own context of how they feel. You almost just want to like hide away and be in your safety and place. What
and
would
that's what you need to avoid, you know.
exactly.
And it's difficult to do that. You've got to avoid letting all of that dictate you as a person. You know, I know, you know, Annabelle, my partner, would say it, but she would say that you don't look, you know, we had not long had George, you know, and it should have been a time of my life where we were, or certainly I was, flying high, and he is the greatest thing along with Freddie to ever happen, you know, to me. But there was a time I just wasn't myself, so it was affecting me at home, because I care that much about football. I care that much about what people think of me, and that's I did when I was younger, but it didn't bother me. I'd brush it off, but I would still care. I would still be interested. I would still be determined to prove people wrong, even at a young age. And all right, you're saying I'm no good, well, I'm going to show you. But when things aren't going well and you're still trying to prove that, and then you care about that too much, that's where it goes wrong for me. Is I invest so much emotion into it that I was just, I cared too much. I was not my happy self at home. Now that I got away from that, I was like, I wasn't, you were a pain in the ass. You know, you weren't, because my mind was so focused on the football aspect of it that I was just not being myself. And I think that's such a difficult thing to avoid when you're so invested in whatever it is, whatever line of work. When you're so invested in something to try and make it work, whether it's a startup business that you're really trying to make work, it's really difficult to maintain that when things get tough and things don't go to plan. And I don't quite know what, I guess is this $1 million question, isn't it? Like, how do you prevent yourself from doing that? I guess
that's what I was going to ask you. You haven't got the answer.
I'm sorry, I don't have it. I think that's what we'd be billionaires if we had the answer. And that's such a difficult thing. It's a journey, isn't it? It's an understanding of, recognition of what you need to do, what's going wrong, what you need to cling on to, what you need to blow up and make bigger in your life and focus on more, what you need to just stamp out. And it's difficult. It is really, really difficult when things aren't going well. But for me, yes, the change helped. Moving to Palace helped. But there's a few conversations I had with a guy called Tom Bates. Don't know whether you've come across Tom. Massive on mindset and psychology. He worked at Birmingham when I was there. He's gone on to work, I think, with Brentford, Villa, professional athletes, Team GB. He's done things with as well. And he was like, what do you need to prove to anyone? You know, what have you, look at what you've done, look at what you've achieved. What do you need to prove to anyone that people don't already know? And that's where, I was like, well, I want to be doing, I'm not happy with this, I'm not happy with that. I said, but what do you need to prove? What more do you need to think about other than just being Jack Butland? And that was what he would, what he said to me. And I was like, it was difficult at first for me to decompartmentalize it and put the care aside, if you like, of what other people think and what the emotional side of it, and then just to be Jack Butland. And it put me in a much better place. It was I still didn't rediscover that form, straight away, but it certainly put me in a better place to, like, not you know what? Get back to, and it doesn't mean not caring. Just get back to not caring. Don't sweat the small stuff. Stop worrying about what some donut has got to say to you on social media. What does that matter? How does that? You just do your thing. You be Jack Butland, and the rest follows. The rest changes itself, you know. But yeah, that, you know, $1 million question is difficult, but sticking to what you know. Remember what made you successful. Remember what made you achieve those things in the first place. You know, and for me that was part of that, you know, part of that process. But I think when things are going bad and you're feeling that way, usually because you're trying to please everyone, or you're trying to juggle too many things that you can't control, too many things that don't matter, and you get embroiled in that, and you get stuck in that vicious circle of dealing with things that just don't matter. You know, we're always going to be under the spotlight in football. Accept it. You're always going to be judged, people's opinions on your performance. Accept it, and just do your thing. And if you are talented, if you are confident, and the rest will follow. And I suppose that, you know, you can change the vocab a little bit on that, but I guess that's the recipe for kind of, if you are or even if you're in a good place, to stay in a good place, is just to remind yourself what got you there, what's important and what's not. And certainly if you're in a bad spot, you're trying to get out of that, remind yourself of the things that matter and the things that don't, and put it on a piece of paper, roll it up, and chuck it out. You know, whatever you have to do to remove that, because they're the things that kind of end up holding you back.
Yeah, they do. And you know, when you were talking, then I was thinking to myself about what are you trying to prove? Because you know what I do is, if somebody says, I've had that said to me before, look at what you've done, and I'm like, yeah, but, and I've always got a but. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, but I haven't and I do that all the time.
You're never going to be perfect. You're never going to go through a career, a life, and everything. It's just not going to happen. So there's no such thing as perfection. You're never going to find it. It's never going to be brilliant all the time. But I think in sport and any profession where you're under the spotlight, you don't want that. You don't want any smudges on that. You don't want any dents in anything. You want it to just be, and it's never going to be that way. I think for me that was exactly that. It was that when it's okay to use them as motivation, as to go, I wasn't happy with that, so I'm going to bounce back. That's going to be my motivation for this week, to do a little bit more in the gym, to do a little bit more, even if you're good at those things, just to do a bit more of it anyway. That's fine. It's when you start to go and let it bother you. And as long as you don't let it bother you, as long as you use it, if you're going to focus on any negatives, just use it as motivation, use it as a goal for that week, if you like. But yeah, I think that, and whenever you're under the spotlight, we are yourself, and any time in any profession you're under the spotlight, it's excuse me, it's the easiest thing to do is to suck yourself into that. So just leave it alone.
Yeah. Oh God, honest to God, I can relate to so much of what you're talking about. I've definitely got a terrible perfectionist trait, but actually I've almost flipped it, because I'm like, well, that's actually made me who I am and where I am. I just have to be really careful of it. Jack, at the end of these conversations, I normally ask, what advice would you give to anybody that's struggling or going through a journey? But I can hear so many bits of advice that you talked about, and I can hear, listening to you, and I hope everybody can, that you can hear the journey you've gone through and the acceptance, and which I think is really powerful. So is there anything other than what you said, or one bit of advice you would give to anybody that's going through that journey themselves in whatever walk of life they're in?
Yeah, I think I didn't say it, but you said it then, is the acceptance. I think that's ownership and kind of acceptance of when things go wrong, and it's something that I learned from during my struggles towards the end at Stoke. I was making mistakes. I don't need anyone to. No one needs to tell me that. We all know that. Fans, they know it. That wasn't me. I wasn't performing well. But at that point, I didn't have a great acceptance. I was that almost embarrassed by what I had done. I didn't. After a mistake, I just believed that everyone knew that I knew what I had done was a mistake. You know, so like at the change room afterwards, what I should have done, and I had in the past when I'd made a mistake, but when I was in a different place kind of mentally, when I was in my confident self, you still make mistakes at that point. But when I was in my kind of lower confident self, I made a mistake and I came in from the into the changing room and I was embarrassed by it. I almost felt like I don't need to hold my hand up and go, sorry lads, because I was like, surely they know I think that. And you know what? The best thing that I could have done was got it off my chest and gone, sorry lads, like that was a mistake. They knew it was anyway, but I struggled with that. So the biggest thing for me, because I was embarrassed by it, I felt like, why am I doing this? You know, the standard that I've set for myself, I was embarrassed by the mistakes that I was making. And it then became, and I've accepted it. Like anytime that happens, anytime you're going through, you make a mistake, the easiest thing you can do is to ignore it, and to not do anything. But it's harder, but the better thing to do is to put your hands up, to accept you've made a mistake, to accept you've done something wrong, to apologize to whoever needs to be apologized to. And it's done then. It's off your chest. It's a difficult conversation. The most rewarding conversations are the difficult ones. The ones that you get it all off your chest, the ones where you are the hardest conversations to have. But if you just do it, if you just start by saying a word, just to get it out your mouth, start on that conversation to apologize. You will be respected for it. You'll be accepted for it because you're a good person. You're not going to have that held against you. Put your hands up, accept it, and on you go. And then keep doing what you're doing. Stick to what you believe in. Stick to your process. Cut out the things that don't matter in your life. Cut out the opinions of people that don't matter, that are not important. Have an ownership of when things go wrong, because they do. And use that as fuel, or use that as motivation to not allow that to happen again, or to put things right. And that's certainly during my most difficult times is something that I struggled with, and I honestly believe if I had done that, things would have changed a lot quicker. But like I said, at the point I left Stoke, I hadn't come to that conclusion yet. You know, and I think that was the biggest thing for me at that point, is I didn't have an acceptance of, and I didn't didn't have an acceptance of what I'd done wrong or the mistakes I was making, and was just kind of like defiantly trying to just push on, when the easiest thing to do was to probably own up, have an acceptance to the mistakes, and I think the environment I would have felt a lot more comfortable in the environment had I done that. But listen, we learn, in hindsight's great, but that's what I know now. So that's obviously what I can pass on to anyone that's potentially in that situation. It's an acceptance. Don't just plow on with blind eye to it. Just accept it. If you have to publicly say it, not publicly in the press, but to the people that matter, to your family, to your teammates, to the manager, whatever. And I think it goes a long way to go in sweeping it under the carpet and moving on. Certainly an acceptance, because I know I never gave up. So it wasn't a case of lack of effort or lack of trying. It was a definite just didn't accept it, didn't accept what I was doing, and I think that would have potentially changed things much quicker.
Yeah, you were like trying to find a way to cope with it, but ultimately it was probably actually knocking your confidence even more, because you're probably making yourself feel
you're holding on to
yourself.
it. You're giving yourself even more baggage to hold on to, and when you're trying to be the best, you can't afford to be carrying anything with you that you don't need, especially mentally. You can carry a niggle, and you can carry a sore finger or whatever. You can get through physically. Your body will stand up to a lot, but mentally, if you're carrying something in there that you really need to get out, you're never going to be able to perform efficiently if you're carrying something mentally. No chance. You can't. Not when you're not at the top level. You just can't get away with that.
Yeah, I think in life you can't really. Jack, it's been so amazing to speak to you. Before I let you go, I'd love, because I was at the very, very beginning, you mentioned your manager, who's obviously Roy Hodgson. I'd love to ask you about him just before we go, because obviously it was his last season in charge of Palace, and he gave you your England debut. And I mean, I've met him a few times and interviewed him. He's such a lovely, never mind everything else, he's just such a lovely man. How much has he helped you?
Incredibly so. He made the announcement earlier on last week, and I was waiting for an opportunity when him and Ray were alone, or at least I could get them together. I wanted to speak to them together because I wanted to thank them. So I called them and I just said, look, I wanted to speak to you guys together, and just say thank you, because 9 years ago now, they gave me an opportunity to go to a major championships, to represent my country after playing no games at all, really, after playing League Two football on loan at Cheltenham, after playing a bunch of games with England age groups and stuff like that, and this is where Stuart Pearce comes into it as well, who was the under-21s manager at the time, for putting me forward, and then and saying, look, if you need a backup or you need someone that you want to take for experience and whatever, that Jack's your man. And the manager and Ray took it upon themselves, if you like, and trusted in that, and trusted in me, and took me along to a major tournament at 19 years old, and opened my eyes to the standard, the level that is the highest level in the world, with the top players that, do you know what, they really didn't have to do. We could have had an injury nightmare, and all of a sudden they're looking at having to call upon a 19. They didn't have to do that. They gave me that opportunity. They let me, like I said, open my eyes to the standard of football that I'd never come across before, and gave an opportunity to a kid that had worked hard, but they gave me an opportunity, and that has set me kind of on my way, and did really then elevated my profile. It elevated everything, and it gave me an opportunity in football that at that age is unheard of. And to follow that up 2-3 months later with my England debut is something that I'll always be incredibly grateful to them for, because it's the best moment of my career to represent the country, your first one, and puts my name kind of in the record books as the youngest goalkeeper ever to play for England. And I have to pinch myself every now and again about that, because I'm still going, I want to play for England. I still want to play more. And I forget that, you know what, I've done some incredible things, but that's just me wanting to get back to that level, and giving me an opportunity to come back to the Premier League and kind of rediscover my form and what I'm capable of. So I owe an incredible lot to them when I said that to them. And And yeah, I owe incredible lot. I owe almost my career to them. So yeah, I said thank you as every player that I think has ever worked with them has done, because there's not many managers. I think it goes without saying, him leaving Palace, the reception and the relationships that he's built over 4 years. We're not talking Sir Alex Ferguson length managerial career at Man United. We're not talking Arsene Wenger. We're talking he's done 4 years at Palace on top of an incredible career of management that he's had. But 4 years is a relatively short time, well, maybe not short time anymore in management, but the relationship that he has built with that club, with those fans, with the players over a 4-year period is like nothing I've ever seen before. And I think that's testament to the person that he is to create that. And he received gifts off of us as a group of players. And he admitted that he had never had a gift at any point from any of his, teams that he had left or parted ways with from the players. So really? I think that goes without saying. Yeah. So I think that goes without saying that. I think everywhere he's been, he's had an incredible send-off or an incredible reception from the majority of places he's been. But I think that goes without saying that the relationships he created at Palace and the relationship with the club and yeah, was quite incredible. So there's a lot of people that owe a lot to him. Me personally, I do. So yeah, I hope he goes and puts his feet up somewhere and reminisces on quite an incredible career that he's had, and goes and chills out. But I'm pretty sure he's not going to do that. I'm pretty sure he's going to be very difficult to shake off.
I was going to say that. I was like,
yeah,
he'll have 10 minutes and then he'll be like, right, what can I do now?
He absolutely loves traveling. So I think he would love to do that. And go out and see some places and do all the things that perhaps football was hindered him from doing, because it's so full on being a manager. So I hope he goes and does that, but I think he's going to be quite hard to keep away from football. So we will see. We will see.
Thanks so much, Jack. Honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you, and
it's been good.
I'm really looking forward to actually seeing what these next few seasons bring out of you, because
me too.
It's just really great to hear your journey, and it's really inspiring too. So thank you very much.
No, thank you. It's been
a pleasure. Have a little bit of a rest.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to.
I feel like you're already ready to start the season.
I am, but no, I need to rest. Need to chill out, spend some quality time with the family, and then we'll go again in 6 weeks and see what the future holds.
Thank you. And thanks all for listening as well. I hope you really enjoyed it. Don't forget to check out our other episodes. There's loads for you to enjoy. If you like football, there's plenty of football episodes with Petr Cech, Ben Foster, Eric Dyer, Adam Lallana, and loads more. And remember to visit sportinglife.com ahead of the rest when it comes to unbiased opinion and sports analysis. And if you're really struggling, you can always reach out. I think it was one of the main things that Jack really spoke about. Charities such as mine, the Samaritans, and Sporting Minds are there and do understand. And I know it can be tough to reach out, but people do want to listen and help. You can also text SHOUT to 85258 if you don't want to talk on the phone. Take care. Thanks for listening, and we'll speak again soon.